Now, two of Donald Trump's 18 co-defendants in the Georgia election meddling case will be tried in October. A judge has rejected their motion to have their cases heard separately. The former president and the other 16 defendants will know next week if they will be tried at the same time. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee dismissed the arguments of Trump-aligned lawyers Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro that they should be tried singularly and separately in this racketeering case. Prosecutors want all defendants tried together in late October. They told the judge that the trial would take the same amount of time, whether it was 2 or 19 defendants.
We so confidently say that each trial is going to be exactly 4 months, no matter who's involved.
I don't think we can say exactly, but I think it kind of cuts both ways, Judge, because if we had, for example, 19 people tried at one time, you have a witness up, and let's say they're subject to 19 cross-examinations. Of course, each of those 19 is not going to be the same full-length cross-examination. So you would have kind of a shorter, if you took them all together, you might have a shorter time for that witness on the stand with 19 people versus if you have 19 trials of one person.
As to the 19, Your Honor, there can't be a trial of 19 people, and it has nothing to do with the length of time. It has to do with the fact that 2 defendants exercised their statutory right to a speedy trial, and 17 other defendants, many of whom's lawyers are here, didn't. And that's our right to do, and that's their right to do.
And so I'll deny Mr. Chesebro's motions to sever from Ms. Powell. I'll deny in part Ms. Powell's motion to sever from Mr. Chesebro. And the plan will be to enter a scheduling order for Ms. Powell mirroring that of Mr. Chesebro with the October 23rd date holding. It sounds like the state is still sticking to the position that all these defendants should remain, and they want to address some of these removal issues. I'm willing to hear that. I remain very skeptical, but we can. I'm willing to hear what you have to say on it.
Well, for more on this, let's cross live to Washington and speak with our U.S. correspondent Eric Ham. Eric, good to know you're back in D.C. Tell us more about what happened in court in this first hearing on the Georgia election interference case.
Yeah, what we saw was 2 defendants, Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell, 2 former lawyers of Donald Trump. They were attempting to, one, sever their case and actually move forward with a speedy trial. They had invoked the right to a speedy trial, which is why case is actually coming up in October. What they were also attempting to do was sever their cases from one another. The prosecutor wanted to actually try both of these individuals together. But what we saw was that these 2 individuals were saying they did not want to be tied together, given that they both had different lanes when it comes to this entire conspiracy. And so they were looking to have their cases severed. The judge denied that motion. And now what we're going to see is their trial begin in October, but there's still, of course, the issue of the other 17 co-defendants, including former President Donald Trump himself. There is no time when that actual trial date will begin for them. But what we do know is that there is an additional hearing that will be scheduled next week where we will get more information about that. And of course, everyone is waiting for a federal judge to rule if, in fact, Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, who is also one of 19 co-defendants, if his trial will be moved from the Fulton County State Court to the federal court. And so that's another issue. So this is still very much a fluid situation because you do have 19 co-defendants all making very different and vast cases about why they either be dismissed or moved to different courts, or, of course, attempting to try to delay these cases altogether.
And Eric, how is this case going to impact on Trump's bid for re-election?
We're already seeing a number of different moves being made just in the last 24 hours in this particular case. We know that the prosecutor, Fani Willis, has just responded to a number of inquiries by the House Republicans led by the Judiciary Chairman, Jim Jordan, where she says that she is not going to provide any information about her case to Congress as it relates to what is going on. But to your question of what does it mean for the election, what we know at this time is that Donald Trump is still attempting to try to either get cases dismissed or trying to delay these cases. We did get some new information just yesterday that was breaking afternoon, and that is an IT worker in Donald Trump's federal case regarding his classified documents case. That individual has now agreed to turn state's evidence and be a witness for the prosecution, whereas at one time this was someone who was actually both working fence. And so now there is a back and forth going on in that incident, in that situation, where the lawyer is now the special counsel, Jack Smith, is fighting with the lawyer to have the lawyer removed. Remember, Donald Trump is providing the legal fees for the 4 defendants in that classified case. So this is actually now certainly going to be bad news for Donald Trump, which could actually pose potential problems for his ability to either become the GOP nominee and ultimately the presidency. If in fact now we look at this case and the evidence is now beginning to weigh heavily against the former president, as it looks like it's getting closer and closer to an actual trial date.
Well, meanwhile, a potential headache for President Biden with the news that his son Hunter is facing a new indictment.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, the information that the prosecutor, who at one time was attempting to try to enter a plea agreement, and that plea agreement was going to be 1 year probation of a suspended sentence with no jail time. Now we're expecting an actual indictment to come down, particularly on the gun possession charge. Remember, Mr. Biden was in this case while there was a tax issue, tax evasion. That was one component, but they threw in the actual gun charge because in the case, he was not supposed to have access or have a firearm. But now we're learning that there's going to be of course, that will be a massive embarrassment to the president, of course, but it's also, I think, giving greater fodder to Republicans who, as we know, when House Republicans return next week from their August recess, they are going to be exploring the possibility of an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. And this forthcoming indictment could be more ammunition that they need to actually get this impeachment inquiry started. So we're looking at a lot of fluid situations where there are going to be a lot of legal wranglings and back and forth that are certainly going to have impact on what it means for the 2024.
Eric Ham, many thanks for your time.